Jy is ingeskakel en is op ons, jy weet op die radio het Joshua na die reën ook gesê, jy luister nou Groot FM. Jy kyk en luister nou na die Groot Ontbyt. Ons volgende gas op hierdie Vrydag in die ateljee, chef Brett Lads. Toe ek die eerste keer Brett Lads gesien het, toe dog ek, hier kom 'n country sanger. Chef Brett Lads.
So met jy aan Ellen Ladding.
I think Ellen Ladd, yeah. Now people are going to remember you.
Yeah.
Brett Lads. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And
Much
you're the owner
appreciated.
chef at 566.
Chefs 566, that's correct. Yes, I am.
We're going to talk about your business a bit later. I first want to know, where did it all start? Where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up around the country. My dad worked on the mines.
Okay.
So we stayed at almost, what do you call it, main dorpie around
Yes.
this little country and that. Standard 6, I went to Pretoria Boys High.
Okay.
And from then, always been in Pretoria. Born and bred from then onwards, eh?
And then, but in your house,
Yes.
is it like a food family or not?
No, not at all. Engineers.
Can you believe it?
Not the most pleasant, bubbly kind of people and things like that. So yeah, I broke the trend and I went into food.
And it is breaking the trend.
No,
I
it
mean,
was
that's-
very much. Eh?
Yeah, it's like, I can understand if you also go into engineering or, you know, a lot of people stay in the mines, but food is just like totally the opposite. So what was your first memory of food? Or the first thing you could make as well?
Well, it was T-bone. And with my dad was a very difficult man. I mean, being an engineer and all and that.
Yeah.
And the only thing we had in common was food. And maybe that's where it bit me or grabbed me, that we could actually sit around a table and cook a piece of meat together and do food together. We were bonding without speaking, if I can put it that way.
So it was kind of braai.
No, around the table. I mean, we had a big stove in the middle of the table. Remember these
Okay.
old farmhouses on
Yes.
on the mines and things like that. And we'd sit around the table, and my dad was the person who cooked at home. You know what I mean? Those days, he thought he was Mr. Master Chef, and he would always like sort of invite us to come sit around with him after work, and we were just be in each other's company with food being the conversation.
Do you think it made a lasting impression on you to make food where people can have a great time together?
I do.
That's your philosophy.
I
around
do.
the food.
Well, with me, I know it sounds kitsch, but to make money can make money. It's happiness that's the hard part. You know what I mean? And I find that food's a medium. We can all get on, we can all love, and we can all enjoy it.
And then, but the dream to become a chef, what age was that?
18.
18.
18.
Okay.
The way I became a chef is quite funny. I left school and I went to a restaurant with my mom and they said, well, what are you going to do now? I'm like, well, I'm going to Europe for a year and then I'm going to come home and I'm going to maybe go study. And my mom and dad were like, no, you're getting out the house. You're a spoiled little brat.
We're going to talk about the people you made some food for, famous people.
Yeah.
But what is your most favorite South African dish to make?
Well, I know, everyone knows it's obviously lamb chops. I think they're very underrated. You know what I'm saying? We've got such great meats and that in this country that I love lamb chops. I love the fillets and that. When I went over to Vegas last year and we were with all the chefs in the chefs conference and that, I was telling them, you know what, South Africa, we've got the best produce. We've got the best foods. We've got the best experience. I mean, I won't mention countries, but 25 years ago, they were boiling food, and now they're telling us how to cook it. And they're cooking our food. So I'm really trying to punch South African cuisine, which is good food, beautiful food, and enough food. You know,
Sure.
we don't want to nibble.
No, but that's,
Ons wil vreet.
that's yeah. And I mean, I think if you get the balance right between gourmet and still filling up people.
True.
You know, if you just go gourmet and boerseën stap in, you know, you got to give him an 8-course.
Yes.
Otherwise, he's going to go like, you know, I paid for what? What is it? And I think in South Africa to get that balance. I'm going to quickly interrupt us with traffic, but I want to talk about you know, making food for Nelson Mandela, the Queen. Amazing stories there. So bly geskakel, ons kyk net vinnig hoe lyk die paaie.
Verkeer.
Ons kyk vanaf wat jou paaie en wat jy kan verwag op ons land se paaie in Pretoria, nog steeds Eufeesweg Oos, vertragings by die N14 Hoofweg en dan is daar die verkeerslig nog steeds buitewerking in Pretoria op die hoek van Hamilton en Soutpansbergweg. Daar is ewige vertragings uit die mootarea, so wees maar uiters geduldig. N1 Suid in Midrand, ongeluk voor Ellendale weg, vertragings vanaf die Brakfontein Wisselaar en dan is stilstaande voertuig ook in Midrand op die N1 Suid en dit is na New Road, vertragings vanaf die Brakfontein Wisselaar. Net vinnig Johannesburg Voor Kempton Park 21 Noord is stilstaande voertuig na die Atlasweg en N1 Noord stadige verkeer in die rigting van die N12 Diepkloof wisselaar. In KwaZulu-Natal, Durban, die M25 by die KwaMashu Hoofweg Oos is daar stadige verkeer in die rigting van die N2 Hoofweg. In Kaapstad N1 rigting stad hewige verkeer tussen Jep de Jager Rylaan en Sabelweg afrit en die N2 rigting stad. Ongeluk na die R300 wisselaar, vertragings vanaf Khayelitsha en daar is erge vertragings. So wees maar geduldig ook daar. Laat weet ons per SMS, die nommer is 4990510 R1.50 of stuur 'n tweet by @grootfm #grootverkeer.
As jy nou net ingeskakel het vir ons luisteraars en ons kykers, ons gesels met Chef Brett Lads, eienaar van Chefs at 566. Ons gaan amper daar 'n bietjie oor gesels oor sy besigheid, maar interessant, hy het op 18 besluit, weet wat, ek gaan nou 'n chef word en sy maat vir hom sê, "You spoiled Brett. Get out of the house." Ag, Brett. So, Brett, you know, you ended up in the presidential guest house.
That's correct.
How did that happen?
Well, it's a great story. Christian Michel was the executive chef of South Africa for many years and that. And he was a Frenchman, you know what I mean? He was never politically orientated and things like that. And he retired and he wanted to pass his knowledge on to somebody. And I was working in the same restaurant where I was with my mom and them. It was a bet that I couldn't keep a job, and I did, and I ended up in the kitchen. And he met me and he enjoyed the food, the flair and what I had. And he came along and said, "Can I train you?" I said, "I'd be honored. I mean, I'd love that." And from there, he started training me. I would go to his house a lot, and to pay back, I'd make dinners and that for them. And the one night we were sitting there having a dinner, and there was a red phone, this old red phone in his lounge. I know it sounds like an Austin Power movie, but it's true.
Yeah.
And one day the phone just rang, and he got up and he started arguing, and no, you know, and put on the phone. And eventually I said, "Sorry, chef, what was that all about?" He says, "No, it was Pik Botha asking, can I come back to the presidential guest house? The ANC is coming in and they need somebody from South Africa who knows how it works to start sort of open up the guest house and start." So he turned around and he wasn't keen. Eventually he said he'll come back, and as long as he can bring his apprentice with. And 2 weeks later, there we were driving up Rantarian Estate to the presidential guest house. We started there very much in the background. I mean, you can imagine those days, trust was very limited. No one knew who you were and what you were and everything else. We cooked the inauguration, the 94 inauguration and that. And it was a few days after inauguration, we thought we were winding down and that. And the ANC called us and asked us, would we mind staying on? And we asked why. And they said, no, they just enjoyed us. I mean, those days, although Matthew Pauls and Tokyo Sokali and them, they were all ministers around, but it's a family. It was a whole big family, and they enjoyed us who we were. But I must just say, it was about that time I was walking down the passage the one afternoon, and as I'm going down the passage, it's this long marble passage. There's no one there now. I mean, the hype's over. Presidents, kings, queens all run back to their countries and that. And here's this big voice saying, "Who's there?" So I stopped. First reaction, take my shoes off and run. I mean,
who's there?
Who's there?
It's
I mean,
like security.
no, who's there?
Die.
So I thought to myself, I plucked up the courage and I popped my head into this huge big door in this lounge, and there's sitting President Nelson Mandela. And I got a fright. You can see I'm a chef. I'm trying not to say what I want to say.
Yes, yeah.
And so he said, "Boy, come forward." So I came forward. He said, "Have they asked you to stay on?" We said, "Yes, they have." He said, "Please, would you mind?" I said, "No, it's perfect." So he turned around and he said, "Why are you so scared?" I said, "Well, you President Mandela." He said, "But why?" And out my mouth shoots, "Why haven't you killed us?" And it's like just one of those things I wish I could have taken back. And he sat back and he smiled and he said, "You know what, if I must live for yesterday, I'd rather die today and not see tomorrow." He says, "Boy, sit down, let me reassure you."
I think it's just going to kill you. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that just changed my life. And it shows you how perception is wrong.
And we're still fighting with that perception.
And we're still fighting that perception.
How long were you involved with him?
Well, what happened was he stayed there for 2 years. He asked me to move in. So myself and my family, we lived there with him for 2 years. And then when he moved out, he said, would we like to go with him to Houghton? Or would we like to stay at the guest house and cater for all his guests that will be coming from around the world and that? And he said to me, there's not much going to happen in Houghton. He was at Union Buildings all the time. So obviously we said, please, we'd love to stay at the presidential guest house. And then we converted it into the guest house for South Africa.
That's amazing. And now nowadays, you open this restaurant.
Yes.
What's the most difficult, we've got about a minute and a half, most difficult food to prepare before we get to the restaurant? I'm just curious.
I don't know.
Some people say like a samosa, with
Yeah.
like the thin. Yeah, but it's like sometimes it's a stupid thing, and it's really difficult.
You know what I would say, honestly, and I know it's a muffin.
See,
Do you know why? Because you can make a muffin look good, eh? But I mean, how many times have you had a great muffin, eh?
yeah. That's the thing. I mean, opening up a restaurant after all these years' experience, what do you cater for? What can we expect if we walk
Well,
into your place?
it's my top recipes that I've had for the last 24 years. And I want people to come feel the atmosphere. I want people to come be happy and eat soul food. I'm not trying to put a drizzle here and a drizzle there. I want people to walk away and have an experience. So the food must be great, the vibe must be great, and I want people to just enjoy what we're doing. I want to make happiness and use food as my medium.
Sure. And it's in Centurion?
No, it's in Garsfontein.
Oh, in Garsfontein.
Garsfontein, yeah.
Okay.
566 Serene Street.
Okay, fantastic. So people in Cape Town, if you come up here, and then just when you go out, just leave some of our vouchers. I mean, you can see how hungry this guy is. He's pale.
Baie dankie Ornay.
I'd rather have you come sit at the kitchen because it's a chef's kitchen and come watch and
No,
enjoy.
definitely will.
Just
Thank
don't
you,
eat
we
the
will.
muffins.
Yeah.
No muffins. No muffins and samosas. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Lads, yeah, great having you here.
Much appreciated.
Excellent. So jy nou soos om al klaar weer honger, maar is nog nie tyd om te eet nie. Jy kan ingeskakel bly vir jou nuushooftrekke.